Okay, good morning everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning. Welcome to Prosperon Networks, and this morning's we'll be looking and discussing assessing the value that automation brings to network operations with NetBrain. I'd like to start this morning's webinar by introducing myself. My name is Mick Poe, and I'll be the host this morning. I'm delighted to be joined by this session by David Elevik, Pre-Sales Engineering Director at NetBrain Technologies. Thanks, David, for taking the time to join us and to talk to our customers about the value of automation. I can see lots of you have joined this morning, and as it's the end of the month, if any of colleagues couldn't make this session, we will be recording this and uploading it to our website and YouTube channel. So if you are viewing on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like and share button so we can reach out to more customers around the world. For those of you active on social media, you can also connect to us via our LinkedIn and Twitter pages for more regular updates, tips and tricks. Okay, David, maybe we can just go on to the next slide. Wonderful, brilliant. So looking at the agenda for today, we're going to be looking at the traditional industry challenges faced by network operational teams. We're then going to be taking a look through NetBrain's solution and how this solution can help build workflows for automation. We'll move on then to look at the value and automation assessment workshop can bring, the steps Prosperon and NetBrain will take to work with you to demonstrate the value automation will have to your organization. And we'll be running a few polls throughout this session to keep it interactive. So please participate, as your answers will help us for future sessions. There may be a few questions throughout today's content, so please feel free to use the chat box to interact with us, and we'll do our best to answer this session at the end of the session. Some of those may be new to Prosperon, so just to give you a quick update on who we are. We've been a SolarWinds partner for the last 16 years and are very proud to be the first UK partner. Our professional service team of 8 certified engineers have delivered over 800 professional services days over the last year and helped resolve over 1,000 support tickets. We're proud to have been awarded the Technical Excellence Award by SolarWinds for the delivery of our projects, and we regularly share insights to the Thwack community. I'll pass over to David just to give a quick introduction to NetBrain. So David, over to you.
Thanks, Mick. So yes, NetBrain Technologies. I've been at NetBrain now for just shy of 2 years, and NetBrain was founded in 2004, and we're headquarters out of Boston in Massachusetts. We have more than 2,500 customers who are leveraging automation for business benefit, and that includes about a quarter of the Fortune 100 enterprises. We have over 100,000 community members, and we are currently managing over 1.5 million network devices in our customer estates, being able to map those devices and to bring about clarity to engineering teams about how the networks are running and how they can manage them better. As you can see, we have a number of customers, and that's just a few of them, as well as customer stories that we can share with you that show you how you can really operationalize automation in your NetOps business. Back to you, Mick.
Wonderful, brilliant. Okay, so on that note, I think we're just going to roll into our first poll and see where everyone is in their NetOps automation journey at the moment. So here's the question, I think, is popping up. So we'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to read the question. So have people already started on their NetOps journey? Are they planning to use automation to make tasks easier, or potentially are there no automation plans at the moment? Hopefully everyone on this call has some indication or drive to look at automation. So we'll see how this poll goes.
Okay, it's filling up just a couple more people to respond.
Okay, the figures come in, and it's looking like the majority are all planning to look at how they can best leverage automation within their organization. Some have started the journey and some have no plans. But as we can see, the majority here on this call all have that interest. So that's good to hear. Cool. Right, back to the agenda, David, and I think over to you.
Great, thanks, Mick. So as Mick said, we're going to look at 3 areas. Firstly, I'll talk about the industry challenges associated with NetOps and automation and managing a network and why we are where we are today. Then I'll look at the NetBrain solution and give you kind of a high-level overview of the solution and also what we call our reference workflow or reference architecture. Because it's one thing to have a solution, it's the next thing to be able to leverage that solution and actually get the benefit from it. Sometimes I see customers over my 20 odd years in the industry who buy products but never actually realize the full value of them. But we have a reference workflow that allows you to do that. And then lastly, I'll go through how the assessment works, the workshop, and the process we go through to help customers understand the potential value and then how they can realize that in their businesses. So let's look at industry challenges. The key thing right now is that digital transformation is driving change. And for those of you like me who have been in the industry for quite a while, and even those of you who haven't been in the industry for a while, but just have lived for a while, you can see that society has changed, things have changed, and digital is transforming everything as we embrace the cloud, as we have a need for new efficiencies. And just because people are less patient about things, everything must be done now. Everything must be agile, everything must be quick. And digital transformation and technology is really driving change in business and in network operations. And over the last 20 years, technology has changed. Now, again, if you're old like me, you can recognize every one of those things. I mean, I still have a couple of those old monitors at my parents' house still sitting there. I don't know why I still have them, but I do. For those of us who have recently had trouble getting petrol or diesel, that symbol in the bottom there may fill you with dread and anxiety at queuing up to get fuel. But this is the reality of our world as it has been. But we are being driven and have been driven towards the new. And again, I've embraced all of these. I'm sure many of you had a Blockbuster video card and went and got Blockbuster video, but now you're consuming Netflix, you're consuming Spotify. The one thing on here I haven't done yet is move to electric car, but given the troubles we've had in recent past, it's likely that that move will also happen. And we are being driven towards the new and towards changing, and technology is really driving us that way. And the same thing is happening in business, and the same thing is happening in NetOps that supports the business. So let's talk about the digital revolution. With any revolution, there is the new technology followed by the application of that new technology, which then causes a change in the way we live and the way we do business and the way we operate. So for instance, when we created the steam engine as a new technology, the steam train was created, which changed the way we were able to get around our country, changed the way we did business, changed the way we were able to communicate. Similarly, when the internal combustion engine was created, then we had the motor car. And for all of us, especially us who are on the road all the time, it has changed fundamentally the way we do business, the way we communicate, the way we operate in business. And with the advent on the internet, the official birthday, January the 1st, 1983, we now have internet working. And first that was about pulling down static content from websites. And then we had email and two-way communication, real-time communication with chat, etc. And then now we move into feature-rich content with cloud services. And this has become the new vehicle for doing business. It has become the new way in which business is done today. And this digital revolution has driven change in the way we do business and the importance of technology and the network to business. But that brings with it some challenges. And I want to put to you now 3 challenges that brings. The first challenge is complexity and end-to-end visibility. As we get bigger networks and enterprise networks, as we have different means of transporting data, whether that be in our LAN, in our WAN, in our data centers, in our software-defined data centers, whether it be into the cloud, we have a problem of complexity in that it's difficult to be able to visualize and understand the entire network devices, to inventory them, as well as to understand, more importantly, the flows of traffic and how that traffic affects each application in the business. That visibility problem, the ability to really understand your network, is a challenge today. Secondly, there is the network dependency to do business. The network now has become an intrinsic part of business. Many companies, when the network goes down, business stops. And it's really important that we recognize that that adds a pressure onto the network team. One thing I recognize is often network teams are invisible until something goes wrong. I can't remember the last time I called my ISP up and said, guys, I did a webinar today. The network held up fantastically. Thank you so much for what you do. I haven't done that. However, as soon as it goes down, I'm on the phone, right? And I'm sure many of you appreciate that, because that's the reality we live in. But really, by embracing the transformation, embracing the network being more important to business, and moving our posture a little bit, we can then leverage that importance to make us more relevant to the business by being able to add value to the business, make them understand the value of the network. And by bringing in automation, we can then add to the business bottom line as well. And we'll talk more about that as we go forward. Lastly, operational models are changing. Your poll was actually encouraging. About 80% of you said you are planning to use automation. And 2 years ago, when I started at NetBrain, my first move into this assessment process was to go into companies and convince them about the value of automation. Well, actually, what I'm finding now is you go into organizations, you know, the large banks and other large organizations, and they're saying to me, oh, meet my new head of automation that I've just hired. And by the way, he's got a headcount for 80 people, for 40 people. And people are realizing that operational models need to change, and we need to drive efficiencies in this process, because as much as a network is a dependency for business, it also needs to be operated in an efficient way, because it does affect the bottom line. So with that in mind, and given these three challenges, this complexity challenge, the dependency on the network for business, and the fact that it needs to be up all the time, and this operational model changing and having to do more with less, I want to ask you a question. Can I ask you, which of these is the biggest challenge that you're facing today? So the poll is open, and I'd like to just grab that so it can inform us as we go on. Is it the complexity of the network that's a challenge for you? Is it the fact that the business is demanding more from you? Or is it about the operational model changing, having to find efficiencies, having to drive that? And let's wait for you to finish the poll. Okay, so it looks like we have a bit of a mix. So a lot of you are saying that it's the complexity of the end-to-end, and we're seeing that. You know, we're seeing customers who have gone from a traditional network with traditional nodes, and maybe then gone to SD-WAN, and that's been fine. But when they've moved into SDN with ACI, it's just been too complex. And yes, complexity is the number one. Secondly, we have also, and in fact tied with complexity, we have the operational model is changing, doing more with less, being able to handle the volume of work that is required of you while driving efficiencies. That's another key one. And also people are also seeing that dependency on the business for the network as being a challenge. Thank you very much. So let's look at complexity and that end-to-end visibility challenge. Over the last 30 years, we've had increased complexity. As I've said, we've gone from LAN, WAN, DC cloud, physical, virtual SDN, overlay, underlay, multicast. we've had routers, switches, firewalls, SDN controllers, wireless controllers, and then every year some 1,000 different vendors come on the market, and whether that be security or networking, it's just a market full of new technologies and products continuously. And with all that innovation, you would have thought that the way we manage a network would have changed. But the problem is we are still being driven by CLI. And all too often, when it comes to network operations, we are in CLI and having to manage through CLI. Sometimes we have a GUI, but then we have a swivel chair effect. So you have different interfaces to log into for different solutions. And really, we need to get to a point where we recognize that complexity in this network industry is like being in a maze, right? There's so much going on. Which way do you turn? Which devices are in scope for this problem? I'm designing a network, but I don't understand what's going on in the network to even have a hypothesis to build on to do this new design. And complexity is a challenge. Also, understanding the network path for an application is a real challenge, particularly when it leaves the boundary of your on-premise network. When it goes into the cloud, a lot of people completely use visibility. Or even worse, when you have a multi-cloud and you have traffic flows between clouds, then that just compounds the problem. So with all that innovation in solutions, tools, technology, CLI is still the troubleshooting go-to today. And Visio diagrams are still the knowledge management method today. And we know that's slow, it's outdated, documentation is always inaccurate, there's no real-time instant response, there's a lack of a single view of all your different tools, there's little collaboration. And what NetBrain platform and solution enables you to do is to enable a new generation of network engineers who can automate everything. Let's go through this dependency challenge. So the business depends on the network. And I'm gonna go through this real quick and just say that there's different areas of networking. You guys are all familiar with all these, the LAN, the data center, the remote network, the SD-WAN, the cloud. And if any one of those goes down, then there'll be a problem. And yeah, we're building resilience and we're building high availability and we do all of that. But ultimately, if there is a problem, reducing the mean time to restore, the mean time to repair is really key because the business depends on it. And this is the last challenge, and this is really key. Operational models are changing. Now, this is from a Cisco Global Networking Trends Survey. And we know about the PPDIOO model. And what this really made clear and why NetBrain focuses on this is that operating the network is where 2/3 of your time is spent. And then a 37% or so is spent doing other tasks. And often when we think automation, we think zero-touch provisioning, or we think being able to deploy quickly. But actually, where we spend most of our time, where most of our resources and our manpower is tied up, it's in our day-to-day, business as usual, operation of the network, troubleshooting network issues, and remediating security threats. And applying automation to that 2/3 of time is what is key to really getting a return on that investment and affecting the business operations and bringing value to the business. So when the network goes down, you're able to quickly restore, and then people can continue to do business. So automation then fills a resource gap. So here we have, complexity is growing. I mean, we've gone through this, additional technology, SDN, infrastructure, compliance requirements, environmental changes, and that all leads to more complexity. But what we're finding is that resources are not growing in the same way, right? So, you get more things to do, but they don't necessarily add more heads to the team to do that, right? And so you have this gap, and the gap is growing, that even if I have budget for people, and I've seen this in a lot of companies, they have budget to hire people, but they can't find the people with the skills to even begin to add more resource. So how do you overcome this challenge? This is where automation comes in, and NetBrain as a platform brings the solution of closing that gap between the resources and the complexity and being able to enable you to do more with less. So let me summarize this. So NetBrain is really taking you from your current state of a static management of your network to be more dynamic, being more less reactive and being more proactive in your network management. From multiple disparate tools to consolidating it into a single platform and giving you visibility as a single pane of glass. From moving you from manual methods to automated methods, from the complex to the simple, from being outdated to being future-proof. And let me make this clear, automation is the future of network operations. Mick, I'd like to ask you a question, Mick.
Sure. I'm
going to give you two options, right? And I'm going to bring this home. And when I say home, I mean literally home, okay? Given the choice, which one of these would you rather do?
So washing by hand is never an easy job, right? So, and we all want to use washing machine. So I'm going to choose the washing machine, David. So
okay, good choice, good choice. And I think probably 99% or more would do that. In fact, let me say this. This webinar has been made possible because of automation. Like many of you, I'm working from home today, and I have a load of washing that's on right now in my wash machine. And while I am here doing the webinar, automation is making sure I have clean clothes for tomorrow. That's great, right? And really, this is what it's about. You know, if this was applied to your business world, do you want to be spending time going around collecting data about your network to update your maps? Do you want to be having to go out and visualize your BGP configuration before you fix a problem? Or would you rather that be automated and come to you immediately so that you can fix a problem without having to do the manual work? And really, that's what we're saying. CLI is like washing your clothes by hand. Whereas using a platform that gives you that visibility and does the heavy lifting for you, and yes, you still need to put the clothes in and take them out at the end, right? There's still some manual intervention. However, the most of the heavy lifting is done for you. I hope that resonates. Thanks, Mick.
No worries.
So that being established then, that's the challenge we're addressing. Now let's look at how NetBrain as a platform brings the solution of overcoming that challenge. So how NetBrain helps. So NetBrain, firstly, is for any network. So what we do is we have the ability to go into your traditional network using SNMP, so we understand what the devices are, and SSH, so we can grab the configs, the MAC tables, ARP tables, route tables, all the configuration. We also collect that from SDN, SD-WAN, SD-Access devices, and also from the cloud via APIs. And then we bring that all into a mathematical model or a digital twin, if you please. That digital twin not only understands what devices you have, but also understands at the control plane level the communication between those devices, so the neighbors, and which device is connected to what, and how the routing table affects the paths through the network possible at the control plane level. That gives us end-to-end mathematical visibility of your network. And to apply that to any problem or any task in your network, we present that to you as a dynamic map. Now, this map is dynamic in that it is kept up to date automatically. So no more Visio, outdated Visio maps. You would now have updated documentation, which is great for audit purposes, whether that be for compliance or for security, but also it's great for hypothesis when you're in a troubleshooting scenario, when you're in a design scenario. But not only is it dynamic in that it's kept up to date, but it's also dynamic in that it gives you the full detail. And for those who haven't seen the map, we can arrange a session for you through Prosperon that can show you how much detail you can drill into and quickly receive information about your network. Secondly, we provide executable runbooks or playbooks, if you like. So this allows you to codify best practice as to how to operate the network. An example of this would be you've got a third level engineer who is the best in your business and he has his way of operating. Simply allow him to troubleshoot a problem using NetBrain, and automatically NetBrain will capture his process. That can then be shared with the whole team of level 3, level 2, level 1, enabling them to act like he acts and given best practice every time you have a task to do in your network. That leads to lower MTTR and every time the best reaction and process in your network operations. Thirdly, we have network intent. Network intent is about understanding and being able to codify and decode the intent of the network. Why did I build the network that way? Why was it designed that way? Where do I have HSRP and why is that? And in fact, if I divert from the intent, the design purpose, how it should be working, because the way it should be working supports my business. If the network diverges from that, I want to be able to automate a response that causes us to fall back in line quickly to ensure that the business continues to run properly on the network that it's dependent upon. And again, it's for every task, for any problem. So the more you automate, the better your uptime, the lower your MTTR, the lower your costs. And then lastly, it's for any person. The great thing about the NetBrain platform is that you don't need to program in Python or any other language. You're able to run the platform for anybody without any prerequisites in terms of coding. So as I said before, it's one thing to have a solution. It's another thing to have a solution that is applied to business clearly and they receive the benefit of it. And that's why we have this reference workflow architecture. So just bear with me as I go through this so you understand exactly how NetBrain works. And there's different methods. You have a ticket or task coming in, then we have a thing we call triggered automation, interactive automation, collaboration, we find the root cause, and then we can be proactive. And I'm going to break this down for you. So it all starts with a ticket, with a task, you know, that ServiceNow ticket that says, you know, the network's down in this remote site, or that call from a customer, or that says, you know, that there's a problem with my application. So the first thing we can do is we can do triggered automation. And what this is the ability to use a third-party system. That could be SolarWinds as a monitoring system. It could be ServiceNow as a ticketing system, but they can trigger data retrieval using the NetBrain solution that presents a map to the responder and a runbook that allows them to action a repair quicker than if it was sitting in a queue, waiting for someone to react. When someone human gets to the ticket, there's already actionable intelligence in place for them to be able to resolve the issue. So an example of that would be that trouble ticket in ServiceNow. ServiceNow then triggers NetBrain to create a map capturing the data, the state of the network at the time of the issue, which is critical because if you wait for a human to pick up the ticket, that could be 10 minutes, 10 hours later, depending on your organization. But at the time of the incident, NetBrain will trigger that map and pull back the information and a run book giving best practice of how to resolve the issue. So let's put that piece of puzzle together. And let's look at how a customer used this. So this particular customer, it's a global consultancy, and they created a 3-stage run book. So for every P2 to P4 ticket, they gave their engineers a 3-stage run book. They said, execute CLI, pull live data, and then do a compare between what you're seeing from before and what you're seeing now. And in fact, that's one of the best things about NetBrain is that ability to look at historical state of the network and the current state, and in one interface, very quickly identify any differences. It's a beautiful thing. And the result of that was for their P2 to P4 tickets, they were able to reduce their MTTR from 4 hours to 15 minutes, a reduction of 3 hours and 45 minutes. So on average, they were doing 4 hours MTTR on their P2 to P4 tickets, and using NetBrain and this simple 3-stage runbook shared amongst the team, they reduced that down to 15 minutes. Such is the power of automation. Okay, so moving on from there, we have the trigger. So that's the machine acting before the human gets there and bringing actionable intelligence. But here we have interactive automation. And this is where the engineer becomes more powerful. So as an engineer, when you have a problem, you have to work out what's in scope. You then have to CLI to each device. You have to run configs, and you have to run commands to then get a picture and hypothesis for what's going on. Whereas with NetBrain, it gives you like a superpowers, is what I call it. It reminds me of Sigourney Weaver in the Alien movie, and she's wearing this this power suit so she can lift things heavy, and then she kills the alien with this mechanical suit. And interactive automation is like having that mechanical suit as an engineer, because rather than go to each device individually, you can say, NetBrain, bring me the information and map out this area that I need to look at. And by the way, while you're at it, show me the Splunk data and logs. Show me the SolarWinds information on the same map. How much time would that save you, right? I mean, to log on to 10 devices and pull the config and analyze the relationships takes time. Whereas NetBrain will bring that to you in a visualized form, and you'll find your way very clearly. I always say the best way to get somewhere is to use a map, and the NetBrain dynamic map gives you that. Also, NetBrain gives you the runbooks and gives you the data view templates that allows you to visualize this data, to decode the network, to really understand what's going on. That leads you to a resolution quicker, bringing that efficiency both in your NetOps, but also the business will realize the value because the business depends on the network, and the quicker you can restore the network, the quicker you can restore business and add value. So let's put the puzzle together. This is one example, but it's very clear, and there's many customers I've heard this from, where the network was down, and then there were a number of people, it's a P1 incident, there's a number of people troubleshooting this, and they've been at it for hours, right? And literally, we've had customers who have had teams of people running for hours trying to find the issue. And in this particular case, they had found the issue was in the wireless network, but they were having real trouble trying to understand exactly what the root cause was. So the small team who were evaluating NetBrain, had NetBrain, they were able to very quickly come into that situation, and using NetBrain, they found the exact root cause using a data view template that clearly identified what the problem was. And on the map, it would highlight in red, this is the problem, and they were very quickly able to restore service. And NetBrain was then established as the go-to troubleshooting platform. And this is one of many stories that I can tell you. And also, there's that collaborative element, and NetBrain provides a means for collaboration. And talking about collaboration, that's our next topic, because NetBrain provides a collaboration portal or incident portal that allows you to share information. So typically on a network issue, everyone who's involved in troubleshooting the problem is in their own CLI, on their own machine, doing their own thing. And there isn't really a method of collaborating and coordinating those efforts until now. So NetBrain gives you a portal view that allows you to share on the map exactly what you're doing, make notes, put in comments linked with Teams chat that allows you to communicate and clearly show what's been done, what the next step is. Also, people who are not in your team are able to also participate in the collaboration portal. So for instance, the network team may own NetBrain, but you're able to invite the security team into your collaboration portal, or the application team. And you can say, hi guys, look, the network is fine. You can see this, everything's green, everything's fine. So it's not the network, over to you, application team. For those network guys who are on the call, you probably appreciate that, that comment. But anyway, so yeah, proof, in fact, mean time to innocence or identify is really a key thing as well, because often the network is blamed when it's not the network. And the ability to quickly pull up a portal, share that with the team and say, look guys, network's good, so it's not us, is really a powerful thing. So the end result is we find the root cause. And there's benefit already, because what we have right now is the ability to move from a manual process, waiting for the ticket. The ticket comes in, waits for an engineer to respond. That takes a while. And then once he responds, he's got a long process of pulling data via CLI. And then he's working with colleagues who don't have that same data and they can't share it. And it takes a while to get to the root cause, but using triggered, interactive, and collaboration, we can reduce that time. But supposing you reduce that down to 1 hour and 5 people, that's great. But how do you learn from that process and reduce it down to 1 person and 5 minutes the next time? So this is where our proactive automation comes into play. And this is where our network intent and adaptive monitoring come in. So we have the ability to be proactive with network management. So there's a few ways of doing this, but let's take the simplest way. When you identify the root cause and you know what the problem was, how about you set an intent that says, this was a problem and I fixed it, and the intent is the network area should be performing like this. And then you can set adaptive monitoring to do a probe that checks for a number of variables that define the correct operation of the network in that space. So this is my intent for that bit of the network. Yeah, it broke before, and when I fixed it, this is the state it should be in, and I'm going to monitor for that state. And if we were to change state, then networking intent would trigger NetBrain to act and to remediate in line with the engineer's response. So let's put the puzzle together. Again, we have this leading entertainment corporation, global corporation, a big corporation, and they had audit requirements. And using network intent, they were able to remove the manual effort of continually updating and understanding the heterogeneous network globally and understanding the state of it, and were able to reduce their audit readiness and compliance by 80%. And for those of you who are highly regulated, you know how much time it takes to be prepared for an audit, to be able to present documentation in detail about your network to an auditor. NetBrain with network intent gives you that visibility and automates that process, reducing the manual effort. So I'm bringing it down now. So we have a business case being formed here. We have P2 to P4 incidents from 4 hours to 15 minutes. Isn't that a great thing to say to the business? As a network team, this is how we're performing and this is what we're bringing to the business. And of our thousands of tasks, this is the efficiencies that we are bringing to the business. To be proactive with the business, rather than just the people they call when things break, let's be proactive and show the value. Also, I'm yet to see a network team that has just enough work. So there's other higher profile projects that don't get done or don't get addressed because you're busy caught up in BAU. Well, NetBrain allows you as a platform, as a solution, to move away from that. And people are really getting these 94%, 95%, 75% efficiencies across all their processes in NetOps. And the idea being that some tasks may remain manual, right? That's the nature of it. Some things may be fully automated, which is great. But overall, it's moving us from a completely manual to where some processes move in different levels, but overall, we have a complete reduction in the mundane task and manual effort. I've had engineers say to me, you know, NetBrain's great. I was able to spend the evening at home because NetBrain is automating things that I would normally have to do. I'm able to be on call, and then rather than when I get a call, I'm on there for 4 hours, I'm now only spending 20 minutes because when I get the call, NetBrain tells me what's wrong and I just have to go and fix it, right? Okay, so automation value assessment. What is it? How do we do it? Let me go through the stages. And basically, it's a workshop in which, using our expertise, Prosperon and NetBrain will come into you and have a workshop or series of workshops, normally between 2 and 4 hours, but depending on how deep you want to go or how much you want to see of our solution along the way, it could take longer, but normally 2 hours to 4 hours maximum. And the first thing we do is look at your existing processes. What's your ITSM? Well, how do you do things today? And we kind of analyze some of your key processes. We then look at, okay, so which of these are the most time consuming? Which have the highest MTTR? Which have the highest impact? Which have the longest resource and the most resource intensive? And we calculate the effort today and the associated costs. Depending on how you do your models, we calculate what the effort is today. Then we apply our automation logic. So our experience, the tools we have in our platform, and we apply those logically, and we convert those tasks into a digitized, automated, transformed equivalent. We calculate the effort reduction. So as you saw, okay, you're doing it this way, and that takes you 4 hours. But if we present you with this data automatically, then you can reduce that down to 30 minutes, 20 minutes, wherever it may be. And then we present to you a AVA report, Automation Value Assessment Report. It's a detailed report that really addresses the business impact of automation. Not only the engineering impacts, because there's benefit for the network team, but also, and for the security team and for the operations team and everybody else, but also it aligns that with the business objective and the value the business can get from it. And this is my last slide. I just want to highlight this. Automation starts at discovery. We automate the discovery of your devices. We automate that. We automate inventory of your devices. We create that digital twin with all the MAC tables, ARC tables, all the relationships, and we present that to you as a dynamic map. And we then interface via API with other tools, SolarWinds, ServiceNow, Splunk, etc., to get that data in a true single pane of glass on our map. And I call this kind of the technical back end. And all those things, compliance checks, assessment inventory, historical network data, end-to-end dynamic paths, traditional LAN, all different heterogeneous networks, giving you that history of your network, comparing data over time, which is really difficult unless you have a platform to do that on. All this is such valuable things in the technical backend. But what we understand is often the business doesn't understand this. That's why they don't call you up when things are going well, only when things are going bad. But all that value allows us to build on that to do our triggered automation, our interactive automation, and our proactive automation on every ticket, every task. And that in turn gives us lower MTTR, increased efficiency, reduced costs, reduced risk to the business. My business needs the network to operate. By automating these things in the back end, I'm reducing my risk of a network going down. And when it goes down because of lower MTTR, I can restore quickly. Improved uptime, improved customer service, and better resource allocation. I could go on. We've had HR teams join our projects because the engineers are less likely to leave because they're engaged in higher value work because NetBrain's doing the mundane heavy lifting stuff. So what the AVA does is looks at that back-end automation, all the things that we can do from an engineering point of view, and it translates that into the value that the business derives from that in the front end from automation. And that produces a report that is consumed by the business that justifies and solidifies. Some of you have projects around automation already. It will solidify your reasons for going towards automation and maybe give you some additional clarity as to where I can focus to get the biggest bang for my buck initially. And for those of you who haven't got a project running, it will give you the business case, the justification as to why you need to bring automation into your business. And we have many other tools. We have our NetBrain University, where you can become a certified automation engineer. And right now we're doing the courses for free and the certification. So many resources. But what's really key is having that piece of intelligence and review that shows how automation can really help your business, help your network operations, and how network operations can bring business value through automation. Okay, any questions? And over to you, Mick.
Wonderful, David. Thanks very much for taking us through the and helping our customers assess the value that automation can bring to their organizations. We'll open the floor up to the attendees if there are any questions on this session. So please feel free to use the chat box as necessary. Otherwise, I guess we can close down the session, but we'll just give it a couple of minutes if there are any questions coming in from the attendees. Just to let everyone know, we will be reaching out to everyone following this webinar to hopefully set some time with you guys to set a workshop with you all to see whether we can take you through the steps and present to the business where we can make some savings. So please feel free to reach out to or speak to our account managers. David, thanks very much for taking the time to work with us all today. We look forward to the next webinar.